Good morning. All right, so this week, for the next couple of videos, I'm going to talk about poetic presence. And presence means an actual palpable connection. And I use this a lot, I think, when I talk about imagination. When I use the word aesthetics, the aesthetic object, I'm talking about an object that is redolent with imagination. And as I scrutinize my usage of that word, there's this palpable sense of a place or a condition that is associated with me as an individual, but also shared. And this sort of aesthetic halo that I've talked about, like this poetic halo that we as humans produce poetry, like chemtrails, or a chemtrail from an airplane, right? The fact of us moving through existence, we sort of leave around us these imaginative artifacts that are the narrative around us. They are our fantasies, our desires, our fears, our emotions. These are palpable. And they can be constructed, right? And when they are constructed, it becomes a poem or a piece of music or a sculpture or a poem or video, something deliberately constructed. And that is the aesthetic object, and it is then placed in the stream as a material form that can be approached by others. And I think one way of measuring the success of a piece of art is the degree to which it compels your attention in that imaginative zone. Now, I'm going to this week talk about some works of art, some poems, some biblical passages, some novels that I think demonstrate this, but more than demonstrate it, they exist it. Because I'm not talking a metaphor here. This isn't a literary theory or a critical idea. It is, I think, something that's available to us, that we can experience not just the poem, but the poet. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Walt Whitman and his poem Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. Tomorrow I'm going to talk, there's a Bible verse in John when Jesus is in Gethsemane and references us directly, the future believer. And then I'm going to wrap up with some Nabokov in his novel Ada, which is maybe my favorite novel. It's such a beautiful book, but it is also not just a story and a narrative and an idea, but it is an object that positions me, the reader, you, the reader, in this imaginative zone. In other places, I've called that the poetic ooze, OOZE. When I was younger, I talked about Zenglop. That was a name that I used for a lot of projects, music projects. I think it refers back to the glittering object, the Terence McKenna hyperspatial object that I talked about last month. It ties a lot together. What I want to suggest now is that there's a real manifest experience that can be had. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes skimming through Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. If you haven't read the poem, it's a longish poem, but it zips by. And it begins with Walt Whitman positioning himself on the ferry crossing over to Brooklyn and giving us a very vivid and visceral description. Flood tide below me, I see you face to face. Now, I see you face to face. Yes, he's addressed the flood tide. He sees the flood tide, but right from the beginning he's saying, I see you, the reader, face to face. Clouds of the west, sun there half an hour high. I see you also face to face. Yes, he sees the experience face to face, but flip it and he's seeing us and we see where he is. Right? So nothing too heavy just yet. We're vividly experiencing what he's experiencing. Crowds of men and women attired in the usual costumes. How curious you are to me. Curious because I think he's already shifting, like Doctor Who, shifting into a different time. On the ferry boats, the hundreds and hundreds that cross, returning home, are more curious to me than you suppose. And you that shall cross from shore to shore years hence are more to me and more in my meditations than you might suppose. That's us. And he says, then you might suppose, because he is not, again, he's not simply suggesting this or being cute with his poetry. He's going to bring us together into this shared, timeless space. I will not read the whole poem, but this is evident in many of the similitudes of the past and those of the future, the glories strung like beads on my smallest sights and hearings. The others that are to follow me, the ties between me and them, the certainty of others, the life, love, sight, hearing of others. Others will enter the gates of the ferry and cross. Others will watch the run. So he repeats the word others multiple times. 100 years hence, or ever so many 100 years hence, others will see them, will enjoy the sunset, the pouring in of the flood tide. Okay, so, yeah, this I think of this as introduction positioning, right? Here's his present, and that present, that landscape will survive him. It will persist beyond him, and we will enjoy it as well. Okay. That, again, doesn't quite do what I'm talking about yet. Here's Whitman. Here's us. Here's the Brooklyn Ferry. No. What I'm going to suggest, though, is that through this, he comes over here. And likewise, we can do the same. Section 3, it avails not time nor place, distance avails not, I am with you, you men and women of a generation or ever so many generations hence. Just as you feel, so I felt. So the cloud of sensations that defines Walt Whitman, the cloud of sensations that defines us, are atemporal. This is part of that meditation process that I talk about, right, where we want a reified self. So one of the outcomes of that is an experience that can shift in and out of a moment, because if there is no reified, concretized self, what is past, what is future, what is present, these and all else were to me the same as they are to you. Right, so he's still, I think, here bringing us in by saying this Brooklyn Ferry that he's experiencing is the same. But remember, this is all the introduction. It's the gate into the experience. Section 5. Okay, this is a pivot in the poem. What is it then between us? Right, we're thinking it's time, space, maybe, because I'm not in Brooklyn, I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm reading a poem. The poem is between us. What is the count of the scores? or hundreds of years between us. Whatever it is, it avails not. Distance avails not, and place avails not. I too lived, and then there's a whole stanza where he repeats the words I too. This is a device that he uses throughout the poem, where there'll be a section where it's others did, others did, others did. Each line begins with the same word. I too, I too, I too. And then he describes himself. I too knitted the old knot of contrariety, blabbed, blushed, resented, lied, stole, grudged, had guile, anger, lust, hot wishes I dared not speak, was wayward, vain, greedy, shallow, cheating, frivolous, refusals, hates, was called by my nighest name by clear, loud voices. This is that poetic ooze. He's instantiating that experience for us. And then section 7, closer yet I approach you. Now, through the pages of the poem, or the screen on the phone, this accumulation of experience that has been represented as a poet writing a poem is now really apparent for us, right? I hope that's coming across, that what Whitman has done is kind of dissolve himself, right? First, define himself as a witness of Brooklyn, the same Brooklyn that we can see today. Now he has dissolved himself into a series of experiences, physical input, physical sensations, the emotional cloud, that aura. This is a very interesting line. We understand then, do we not? What I promised without mentioning it, have you not accepted? What the study could not teach, what the preaching could not accomplish, is accomplished, is it not? This is such a wonderful poem. Now we're moving towards the end of the poem, Flow On River, which is a nice metaphor for this experience, right? So there's definitely poetic devices being used here. But okay, I'm going to read the last stanza. And when I read this, Whitman is right. It's right here, and I am right there. And let me just read it. You have waited. You always wait. You dumb, beautiful ministers. We receive you with free sense at last, and are insatiate henceforward. Not you any more shall be able to foil us or withhold yourselves from us. We use you and do not cast you aside. We plant you permanently within us. We fathom you not. We love you. There is perfection in you also. You furnish your parts towards eternity. Great or small, you furnish your parts towards the soul. And there the soul is that Emersonian idea of the soul. Yeah. Let this poem, like, it teaches me that there's a manifest experience that's available. And that experience doesn't mean that I'm dead. It doesn't mean that I have no body. It just means, right, this is the actual experience of the impermanent self, the non-reified self. And it's available in that poem with Whitman. Except at the end there, he's talking about we. Yeah? So think who that might... Why does it shift? In the beginning of the poem is I and you. And then at the end of the poem, it's we and you. We fathom you not. Starts with I see flood tide face to face, and then it ends with we absorb you. You furnish your parts. So let me know what you think, whether any of that resonates with you. If it does, let me know how, and if it doesn't, challenge my reading. Let me know if I'm just whacked out, wackadoodle. So, thank you all for checking out this video, and I'll see you tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Then Thursday will be Q&A. So if you have questions, send them in, and I'll spend Thursday doing that. And then Friday will be Nabokov. So, keep your wits about you.